So what we're talking about today is wage hour, and what I want to emphasize is that a lot of states have gotten into this business, and in fact, unfortunately, a number of municipalities, famously San Francisco and Seattle, have passed their own minimum wage laws. So working with a national group like this, can only talk about national laws, but what I want to emphasize is you need to take care of these folks, but if you are in a jurisdiction where you have state or local wage hour regulations, obviously you have to comply with all of these, plus anything that your local folks come up with. So please be careful about that. I practice in Virginia and Texas, and so far they are two states that have not interfered in this area, at least to my knowledge. Might be a city out there somewhere that's done it, not in Texas, but perhaps in Northern Virginia, but it hasn't made it across my desk yet. But this is an area that a lot of people, even when we teach wage hour, and I teach wage hour and stuff, I teach employment law, and I teach a lot of awareness of things, and a lot of the pieces that we're going to cover today are not covered even in law school courses. And I have a unique experience. I've been doing this for 40 years, literally 40 years. And it's interesting because the federal government has a very attractive pension program, which means that the people I'm working with on the other side of the table from the U.S. Department of Labor have less seniority than I do. I've been doing this longer than anybody else that I deal with on the other side of the table. So that presents some kind of interesting circumstances in terms of how this stuff is interpreted. And I have actually gone toe-to-toe in the last year with the regional director of the U.S. Department of Labor Wage Hour Division, and I have sent 2 different letters to the U.S. Secretary of Labor, Acosta, in Washington, D.C. So I am not playing games with this stuff, folks. This is very serious, and it affects a lot of businesses. Unfortunately, the way this usually works is you're in business for however many years, 20 years, 15 years, 30 years, and one day, usually triggered by an employee that you have terminated, or an employee who is disgruntled, feels that they're not getting enough pay. Maybe they went to a training program and they didn't get paid, or they went and did some extra work and they didn't get overtime. But the majority of people who file these complaints are former employees, and they're just out to get even. And what happens is when they file a complaint and say, well, I didn't get paid fairly, or I didn't get all my overtime, the Department of Labor, for some reason, unlike the EEOC down the street, does not tell you who filed the complaint. Usually we can figure it out. It's one of the games that I play is, which one of them did this to you? But they usually come in and do a full audit. And my experience, one of the oddities of my experience with this has been that usually the person who filed the complaint consistently gets the least out of the deal. And a lot of your employees who've been bopping along without complaining, when they're audited, it turns out some of them get more money than just about anybody else in the deal. In fact, we had a restaurant get an audit some years back. The person was a courier for a very short period of time, claimed they weren't properly compensated, and they got like $60 in unpaid wages. However, the restaurant went through a full audit, and they came up with $3,000 for the cook, who was not an exempt employee because of the way the circumstances were. And the chef didn't want the money, was very loyal to the owner, felt like he was taking money improperly from the owner. And guess what? He's not allowed to turn the money down. So, the interesting part. And yeah, if you've got a former employee gets picked up in an audit and you can't find that employee, that money goes to the federal government. You do not get to keep it. So these are some fairly tough rocks out there on this. And so that's why we thought it was important. I've just handled 3 consecutive wage hour investigations in Houston, And I can tell you that it's kind of rough and tumble out there.